Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Sorry I had to go earlier. I had to go take care of some stuff, but I am back now. Let's watch the meltdown. I mean, here it is. We're in the middle of it. Might as well grab some popcorn and watch it. Let me post this actually. Again, my apologies for cutting the last one short. All right, guys. I mean, this is what we've talked about, the lower low. It's a bear market through and through. Uh, you're living it. We talk about crypto winter. I mean, this is what leads into it, right? Like winter is coming. I mean, this is what leads into it. So I think that uh, when you think about this market, it's going to take a while for people to trust it again. Yeah, it's the truth, right? It's the truth. So I wouldn't worry so much about short-term FOMO because it can really bite you. I hope that I hope that people have been stacking cash and being light on altcoins. That's what we've tried to convey over the last several months on the channel, is that the market remains incredibly risky right now, and given the macroeconomic uncertainty, it makes sense to reduce your exposure to some degree. So, anyways, Bitcoin is now approaching $31,000. We are approaching the summer lows of 30K, 29K or so. This is where, if we're gonna get a bounce, you know, I mean the corridor is all the way down at 26.4, but the summer lows or going slightly below it or something. I would say 30K plus or minus a few K potentially for a bounce. If we just go straight to the 200 week SMA like we did in 2018, after going below the 100 week, then I mean it's a it's a possibility, and it would certainly change a lot of things if we just go straight to the 200 week SMA. But right now we're still not even there yet. But I mean, just sort of looking at this, like looking at what happened in 2018, we went right to the 200 week moving average after dropping below. Um, and so that's kind of what we're potentially looking at. I mean, this is what we just spoke about. If the weekly candle following the one that took us below the 100 week, if it's the same as what it was back in 2018, it would be a 29% drop. I mean, that would put Bitcoin at like 24K, believe it or not. I mean, you're talking about all the way down to 24K. We could see a lower low below the summer low today, potentially. If this keeps up, I mean, this is just a systematic meltdown right now, you know? And I mean, it just still looks like people are just selling efficiently. Um, I don't think we're necessarily looking at some type of a capitulation wick just yet, but that could quickly come in the event that this thing continues for a bit longer. Um, so the dominance is still stubborn, still sitting less than 42%. Kind of seems strange to me. I don't think it's going to hold forever. I think it's going to go up, but that's where we currently stand. And what's the 200 week SMA at? It's just below 22K. Okay, so you have to assume it could at least go to 22K. At least go to 22K. Don't say it can't. It can. A lot of people would never have assumed it could go back to this price, but here we are. Okay, so it could go back down to the 200 week moving average. We've been down there many times in the past. We'll be there many times in the future. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, I can show the volume. Probably need to look at it on the daily though, since the week just started. Yeah, we're getting some decent volume on the day. I mean, if it could end up being something like this one over here. This is what I keep saying. Be on the lookout for if it bounces like we did in June of 2018. We put in a lower low and then we bounce. You might see something like that if on the daily, right? When you see the daily volume get up this high, the bleed usually slows a little bit. Sometimes it bounces, sometimes it slows, but it's certainly something I think we need to keep an eye out on as this continues to sort of deteriorate downward. Remember, the bear market structure remains very much intact. The rejection off the 200-day moving average, the break below this level, which ultimately put in a lower low. We've talked about this a lot, just sort of mimicking what happened in 2018. So that's sort of what we're looking at if you overlay the 200-day SMA. If we were to continue to mimic 2018, then it means a bounce somewhere around 30K, plus or minus a couple K, back up to the 200-day. If, on the other hand, we mimic just going below the 100-week SMA, like at the end of 2018, then it could just mean we go straight to the 200-week SMA. And from some respects, it wouldn't be that surprising if that happened, considering that, like the RSI has been in a bear market for a year almost. Actually, more than a year at this point. Because what's interesting is normally the bear market ends, a year after the RSI tops. This was December 2017. The bear market ended December 2018. The RSI topped here January 2021, but clearly we're already past January 2022. But you can in fact see that the RSI is getting slowly closer to those oversold levels. The furthest we've ever seen it go down is around 28 to 29. We're currently sitting at around 35 on the monthly time frame. The RSI is currently at around 48. Historical bottoms have occurred around 44. So my guess is there's more down to come, is my guess, and that altcoins remain incredibly risky, and that's just the way it is, Yeah, look, guys, it's a bear market. There's no point in really debating it anymore. I mean, there's some people that that call me out on it and say that it's not a bear market. There's no point in debating this. It's just a bear market, right? You don't look at the market, just go into a systematic meltdown like this and call it a bull market. Let's be real. I just feel like it's a waste of our time to argue. I think at this point, if it's a bull market or a bear market, bear markets look like this. Okay, this is what they look like. If we see a relief rally, where's the rejection? My guess is if we see a rally, that the rejection is at 40. If we get the rally, I don't even know if we're gonna get it. I mean, if we just go straight to the 200 week, then we won't get it from here. Clearly, I mean, but if we do get a relief rally, I'm guessing the rejection will be at 40. Basically, going back up to the 200-day moving average, which is where we went in 2018. I think the main problem right now is this sell-off at some point, just from like an oversold perspective, it would seemingly need to at least bounce for at least a week or two, just to make sure that it doesn't become too easy to short sell it, which I know people will try to do. But yeah, I mean, if we get a bounce off this lower low, going back to the 200-day is my best guess, and that's already at 46K, but it's going to move down fairly quickly here. Okay, so you can imagine if this say comes down here and then bounces, maybe it comes back up to 40K or something. That's if we get the relief rally. That is my best guess as to how high it would go. I don't think we're going to see any type of bounce back to 60K or something like that. I don't see an alt season right now. It doesn't mean you won't see alt rally a lot off whatever the most recent local lows are, but it's going to take some time to build the confidence back in this market. You don't build it back that quickly after this. You just don't. I mean, it just is what it is. You have to spend some time down in dealing with the winds of winter before you'll see it recover. That's where we currently are. Hopefully you've been stacking cash. Hopefully you're light on altcoins. That's all I can really say about it. Um, What if 2018 and 2014 money was less in the market and we got much lower than 22K? I mean, the Fed printed 50% more money in the last 2 years. We could go below 22. Bitcoin's been to the 300 week before, twice, sort of. At least once for sure. Arguably a second time. If you extrapolate out the 300 week SMA to earlier times, that's currently at around 16K. So I mean, look, people don't like to talk about this stuff, but when you look at a market and you can see that we've seen rally or drops. The last one was 84%. Okay, they've been getting a little more tame each time. For instance, this first one was 93, 94%. This one here, this longer bear market ended up being around 86%. So you have 93, 86, 84. You know, if that trend continues and we go down, maybe not quite. I mean, 84% down, you know, puts you all the way at 10K, or maybe not 10K, maybe 11K. But let's suppose we go down. I mean, a 15K Bitcoin is 78% down, right? A 16K, which is where the 300 week is at 76% down. 20K Bitcoin is 70% down. You know, don't tell me these things can't happen. I've watched them happen many times, in fact. And every time people always say they can't happen, and then they do. So, you know, don't tell me it can't happen. It can. It's happened before many times. It'll continue to happen. So maybe the biggest counter argument is that we didn't go up as high. So maybe we don't have to go down as much, but I don't know. I mean, you know, in Bitcoin bear markets, I usually get pretty apathetic and just sort of assume the price is going to go lower until I'm proven otherwise. So, you know, you have to assume these things are possible, right? Like, don't tell me it can't happen. It can, and you need to be prepared in case it does. I think really what you're looking at is we're sitting on the cusp of a few things here. Number one, Bitcoin dominance. I'm growing old saying this at this point. I mean, literally, I feel like I'm getting gray hairs waiting for this to happen. But one of the things we're waiting on that I think we're on the very cusp of is Bitcoin dominance going up a lot. Okay? So if in 3 months the Bitcoin dominance is below 42%, then I got it wrong, completely wrong. If on the other hand, the dominance is upwards of 50% or more, that's the path of least resistance, I think. Okay? There's a lot of garbage in the space and it needs to be washed out. It's the truth, right? It needs to be wiped out. The market needs to be cleansed. And it can't do that if the dominance is only at 42%, you know? So I'm telling you, this is where it goes up. If it's going to go up, it's going to be over the next 3 to 4 months, is my guess, because we've put in a lower low. And as I said before, when we put in a lower low in June of 2018, that was exactly where the dominance shot up a lot, right here. June 2018, it started. You can really see it really started to take off in mid to late June, and then going into July, and it didn't slow down until September. So if you look at something similar, you're talking about the dominance picking up steam the second half of May, continuing through, say, like June, July, and August is what you're likely looking at. All right, that's what I think is going to happen. I think dominance is about to go up a lot. Remember, dominance going up doesn't always mean Bitcoin's price goes down. Okay? It doesn't. I know a lot of people think that's what it means. But as I said over here, when the dominance went up during those months, Bitcoin was actually fairly stagnant. Okay? I mean, it actually rallied back up, which would be the equivalent to 40K today. Bitcoin could stay like this, and alts would absolutely get wrecked if that were to happen. Bitcoin rallies off a local low, alts are going to get wrecked against their Bitcoin pairs more than likely, even if they do okay against USD. So, you know, the point is that the market as a whole needs to be cleansed of all the filth, right? All the scams, all this sort of stuff. The only way that's going to happen is if Bitcoin washes them out. It needs to wash them out. They're not washed out yet. You know, more spirits need to be broken. And I mean, that's the truth. They need to be broken. They're not broken yet. Some of them have been broken. We're starting to see them break. But my point is that if Bitcoin gets that rally off of that local low we've talked about, even if the bear market continues, alt Bitcoin pairs are wrecked for the next several months. Okay? So, you know, don't tell me that you think that you think altcoins are going to do well against Bitcoin, because I don't really think so. I mean, this is my best guess. I think Bitcoin could bounce, and I think altcoins could maybe bounce with it, but I think Bitcoin would sort of leave them behind. And you know, if you had to think about what would happen if Bitcoin bounces in the 30 to 40K range for 3 months, if we're lucky, imagine if Bitcoin bounces between 30 to 40K for 3 months. Alts are wrecked. I mean, absolutely wrecked. Let me show you an example. Okay, so you know, don't take my word for it. You go look at historical valuations. Okay, so let me go to When was this bottom, by the way? 22,120. All right, let me go figure out when this bottom was. I'm gonna give you a case in point. Okay, so Bitcoin hit this price January 24th. Okay, January 24th. And well, we don't really have the best data for it because it actually rallied by the close, but I'm going to show you something here. All right, look at this. Historical snapshots. Look where Bitcoin was, okay? I don't think they actually have it at the lower price, even though we know it went there, because it sort of bounced off of that low. But regardless of that, look at these altcoins. They're all much higher than they are today. So what are we saying here? We're saying that if Bitcoin bounces here, okay, which there's a good chance it could bounce somewhere off of these summer lows. If Bitcoin bounces, alts likely don't keep up. Why? Bitcoin put in a lower low. The market structure has changed. It's the same thing that happened in 2018. Okay, so these altcoins remain very risky right now. I'm not saying you can't make money on them. A lot of people do. A lot of people make more money on altcoins than I do because I'm very risk averse and I don't like having too much altcoins in my portfolio. But when you're looking at a lower low, I mean, that's the market structure, right? It's the market structure. Lower low is then. Bitcoin dominance needs to go up. If it doesn't go up, then the market structure has fundamentally changed. I will assume that this is going to go up. My best guess in terms of where we are on, say, like a weekly dominance type thing is here. Somewhere like right here is where I think we are. So I think the next few months, you're going to see the dominance do something like that. If that doesn't happen, then I'll need to reassess. I'll need to reassess what the hell this market's doing if this doesn't happen. So I think dominance needs to go up, meaning altcoin, Bitcoin valuations need to get wrecked, including ethers. So that's where we currently stand. Yeah, just do yourself a favor. Anytime you think about YOLOing on altcoins, go take a cold shower. Okay, maybe they'll bounce in the short term. Who knows? I mean, when they drop 20%, they often get 10-15% rallies. But as far as say like a 6-month investment or a year investment right now on alts, not really looking so hot. Bitcoin is king during this phase, and don't you forget it. Don't forget it. Look, it's down 6-7%, 6 or 7. Look at these altcoins. Most of them are down double digits. Double digits, okay? This is not altcoin season. There is no evidence of an upcoming altcoin season. If you're going to message me in a couple weeks on a potential bounce or whenever it happens by altcoins and say that's an altcoin season, then your expectations have been hammered down so much that you don't really remember what an alt season is. This is not an alt season. A 20% recovery bounce is not an alt season. An alt season is something that lasts months, where everything's going up 50% in a week or something. So no, be careful with your money. You need to be very cautious right now. The dollar still looks relatively strong. The NASDAQ still looks relatively weak. And I mean, I'm thinking maybe the NASDAQ will get some type of a bounce here in the next week or two. Potentially off of somewhere in the 11s. Okay, I think there'll be some type of significant bounce somewhere in the 11 range. So currently we're at 12.3, 12.2. So looking for a bounce there. And then if that bounces, you'll probably see crypto bounce a little bit. If the NASDAQ doesn't bounce and goes straight to the 200-week SMA, so if the NASDAQ drops another 13-14% straight to the 200-week, like we did in March of 2020, basically, you're also looking at Bitcoin more than likely at the 200-week SMA then, okay? So you need to be careful. You need to protect yourself. This is a risk-off environment. It's not an altcoin-heavy environment by any stretch of the imagination. Every time I say that, people call it, a bottom indicator. I mean, we'll hit a local bottom at some point. We haven't hit it yet, and altcoins still continue to get wrecked. So, we put out a lot of videos over the last few months saying that alts are really risky, that that stacking cash is the name of the game in the bear market. Hopefully, some people took that advice. But anyways, what questions do we have? And we'll try to get to them. Can we see a 1K ETH? A 1K ETH. It could happen depending on how bad it gets for Bitcoin. Okay. I mean, I'm not saying that a 1K ETH has to happen. I think a lot of times investors need to be more open-minded to what can and cannot happen. Okay. There's a difference between, say, something can happening and saying that it will happen. Like there's a chance that you could see Bitcoin flash crash down well below, some of the price targets that people talked about. Just, some things can happen even if you don't think they can. So yes, I mean, anything's possible. Anything is possible with investing. I mean, there's all sorts of charts you can go look at. So yeah, anything's possible. And I think that the summer low for Bitcoin was around 29K. The summer low for Ether was 1,700. So you have to at least accept a $1,700 ETH, at least. Furthermore, if Bitcoin goes back 20K, then you have to assume that ETH can go to 1,400, like its prior all-time high as well. It'd probably be slightly below it, actually, if Bitcoin goes back to 20K. So, yeah, I mean, these prices are certainly possible. I do think we're hopefully getting to the stage of the bear market where more people kind of understand that these things are possible and don't give me a hard time for saying that they're possible. Usually that's a good sign once we get to that phase. There still are people that are giving me a hard time about it, so I don't know that we're quite there yet. But it's usually a good sign whenever we reach that phase. Is there anyone that thinks we're in a bull market? They say, I see no one. Oh, yes. There are plenty of people that think so. Just go to Twitter, go to YouTube. There's plenty. Advice. Someone says advice if you're already down. Listen, you need to, when investing, you have to think about one thing, okay? There's something called a sunk cost, okay? Whatever you bought it for is kind of irrelevant, okay? You have to take the information that you have at the time and run with that, not based on the price you bought it for. Someone says the Bitcoin dominance will never come back. Yeah, look, it's possible. Like I'm not. It's not a hill I'm gonna die on. Like I'm not gonna say that the dominance has to go back before Bitcoin ever goes back into a bull market. Okay, so I'm not prepared to die on that hill. But I will say that it would make me and a lot of longer term investors, I think, happy if it did go up, and it would make me more confident in the market if it went up. Like if I saw the Bitcoin dominance at 60%, I would be a bit more confident in the market than it just chilling at 40 to 42%. Now the counter argument, as he said, is there's a lot of VC money in altcoins and stuff, and that's why they won't go down. Look, VC, they can, this venture capital, they can lose money too. Okay, so these altcoins can go down really quickly. I mean, look, like if Bitcoin were to bounce here back to 40K and then come back to 30K, alts would get wrecked against Bitcoin again and again and again. So yeah, I hear you. I could be wrong about the Bitcoin dominance. I don't think I am. If I am wrong, it should be fairly obvious within the next couple of months. Okay. If you don't see the dominance go up in the next 2 to 3 months, let's say over the summer, okay, because it's already May now, so we have June, July, and August. If you don't see the Bitcoin dominance go up over the summer, then the market has fundamentally changed forever, okay, because this is when it should go up, is after putting in a lower low. it should go up, especially if Bitcoin sees some type of bounce. So yeah, I would say, it's not a hill I'm going to die on. I do think the Bitcoin dominance should go up, and if it hasn't made its move, if it doesn't make its move this summer, then the market has fundamentally changed. If 64 is the top, then we had severely diminished returns. Sorta. So yeah, so this one here was a 100x, and then this one here would have been a like a 20x or so, maybe like a 23x. So you basically had a 100x, a 23x, right? So if Bitcoin ends up bottoming, let's say it bottoms at let's just say it bottoms at 20K. If it bottoms at 20K and then the next run is, say, like if it's a 5X, that gets you to 100K. If it's like a 7X, it would get you to like 140. Yeah, but look, the returns have diminished, but not really in a way that wasn't anticipated. Again, you go look at the risk level, the risk chart on Bitcoin, and you can see we hit the upper band on it. So it's not really diminished in the sense that it was completely surprising. We still went to the highest risk band. I just think a lot of people, were originally thinking that we were going to go to 300K, and therefore, a 60 to 70K Bitcoin isn't exactly what people were thinking. But look, diminishing returns is a thing, and it's played out once again. Okay, so this is one of the theories, right? Diminishing returns. A lot of people don't like it, and they said we were going to go much higher, but we didn't. Okay, we topped out at 64K or 69K if you look at November. um, the corridor, where that? Don't worry about ETH. Okay, all right, don't worry about ETH. The corridor doesn't really work on ETH as much as it does on Bitcoin. Bitcoin, I think it works relatively well on. Not as much on Ether. Okay, so these are the bounds. The bounds right now on it are 26.4 to 96.7. These are the bounds right now. It's held twice before. So, here in the summer of 2021, it held in January. The bounds now are 26. You can see that the market cycle bottom was December 2018 on it. This bottom was basically on it. We had a wick below. No one's getting out of bed for a wick. So, yeah, like if we go to 26K, probably, maybe some type of bounce. That happens this week. I kind of prefer the idea of getting a bounce off the summer lows without having to go to 26K. Just to kind of give this time to continue to move down, maybe closer to the 200-week moving average or something. But I have to think that if we're going to bounce before going to the 200-week SMA, it would be somewhere around these summer lows. That's what I would be inclined to think. Okay, somewhere around 30K plus or minus 3,000, a few $1,000s. Any updates on whale number 3? Actually, this is a good question. I was actually looking at some of this whale stuff recently. So let me show you what I was looking at. So let's go check in on our friendly whale number 3. He's not doing a damn thing. He is, I guess he picked up 1,000 Bitcoin 3 days ago at 36K. But no, it hasn't done anything in the last few days. It's just sort of like all a wash to some degree. I was actually looking at some of the older wallets, actually. These wallets here are super interesting because they not only bought the 2018 bottom, they also bought the 2021 bottom. The series of wallets probably all belonging to the same person. I don't know if they just bought the bottom and got lucky, or maybe they created the bottom because they just bought so much Bitcoin. But I'm watching these guys like a hog. You can see they bought December 4th, 2018. They bought July 17th, 2021, somewhere around those time frames. They've been quiet ever since. I'll click on one of them so you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see they went really heavy in Bitcoin just below $4,000 in December of 2018. They didn't go as heavy over here, but they put in a similar amount of money. I mean, it's just Bitcoin was worth 10 times more. You can see they added their position in July of 2021, but it's been crickets ever since. Crickets. So we want to see these whales buying. If you go down even further, there have been some whales that started buying recently. This one, these guys started buying in February and March of 2020 during that big drop, and they recently started buying again on February or on May 6th. Look at all of them. Probably the same person, but all of them. Again, let me click on one so I can show you what I mean. They bought a lot of Bitcoin over here in 2020, March and April of 2020, and then they didn't do anything until 3 days ago, where they got a couple hundred Bitcoin at 36K. Maybe they should have waited a couple more days, but you're seeing some of these longer term whales that really don't make that many moves. They're starting to wake up a little bit. Not all of them have woken up yet, so I do think it's worth watching this stuff to see when will a lot of them wake up. Here's a lot of other wallets. You can see they all have 8,000 Bitcoin in them. Look at these guys. I mean, look at this. They all bought in December of 2018. I mean, look, December 5th, 2018. And then they recently bought again in the summer of 2021. Look at all these. Actually, no, these didn't buy in the summer of 2021. It was just a small transaction. But you can see that they've been fairly dormant, for a long time now. They've been fairly dormant. They bought this, the bottom of 2018. They haven't done anything since. I mean, I guess it's good news they haven't sold, but they haven't done much of anything since. And you see all these sort of like dust transactions that are showing up. But anyways, that's what we're looking at with the whale game stuff. Not a whole lot to report. There are some older wallets that started buying in 2020 that have recently started buying. Whale number 3, he's kind of all over the place. Yeah, there certainly are some whales that are selling though. I'm not trying to give you the impression that there's not. Like this guy just regularly sells like 500 Bitcoin. Look at this. This guy's losing money, I think, because you look at where they were bought. They were all bought at like, 47K, 49K, 50K, and then it looks like they did take some out near the top, but they've really been selling a lot recently. Their profit right now is negative 462 million. So you thought you were having a bad day, right? Negative 400, and this is almost a $500 million loss. They're selling 500 Bitcoin every few days, and they have been since really late 2021. You can see their balance is still going on. I mean, they still hold over 27,000 Bitcoin, but it's been slowly going away here. All right. Well, so someone says Bitcoin versus NASDAQ's about to reverse down to 13K Bitcoin in a longer than traditional bear market possible. Yeah, I can go look. Index Bitcoin USD divided by the NASDAQ. Let me switch this over to this one. I guess I need to go back to log scale. Yeah, it has fallen below. I mean, these are the lines we previously drew. So it looks like this has fallen. I mean, I guess you could always redraw the line to fit the wicks if this ends up coming back up. But at least for now, it looks like it has broken below. If you just connect the wicks, it looks like it is about to. Yeah, there's a lot of supports that are sort of falling right now. I think if the NASDAQ bounces in the $11,000 region, which is getting somewhat close to maybe like 11.5 or something, you'll probably see Bitcoin bounce as well. But Bitcoin is in some trouble here. It looks like the SPY is back to 400. So the SPY is getting close to being 20% down. It's currently almost 17% down. If it goes to 380, you're talking about it being officially a bear market for the S&P, because I think they use 20% moves. So 380 they'd call it a bear market. For the NASDAQ, it's been in a bear market for a while now. The NASDAQ's down a lot. I mean, quite a bit actually. From the top, the NASDAQ's down 27%. And, to go down 30% would put it at around, right around 11.6, 11.7. So perhaps a bounce off there. We sort of saw a bounce at around 20%, plus or minus a couple percent. So maybe we'll see one at 30% too, plus or minus a couple percent, to come back up and then try again. Yeah, we can go check out accounting for M2. So we'll do that. So yeah, it looks like, because we talked about this back in the summer as well. It looks like we're there, actually. When you account for M2, which is perhaps a dubious way to account for the supply of money, we're testing the 2017 all-time high right now at a slightly higher price than we tested it in the summer of 2021 because there's been more money that's been printed since then. So yeah, we're testing it right now. The prior all-time high of 2017 when you account for, some of the money, the money being printed. Interesting point. Thanks for bringing that up. Do I consider ETH an altcoin? No, I don't, but I still think it's going to get wrecked against Bitcoin over the next few months. Netflix is only down 75%. Yeah, I was looking at that. If it goes down like 80 to 85, I might have to get some. I don't know. I'm not really that convinced on Netflix's business model, especially with all the competition they have. But at some point, if something goes down 85%, you would at least see some type of a pathetic bounce along the way. Someone says, "What are the chances of Bitcoin going to zero?" I don't think it's going to go to zero. I would buy it all up before it went to zero. Just to say I have all the Bitcoin. What do I think about altcoins? I think they're all going to get wrecked against Bitcoin for a while. That's what I think. I mean, this doesn't really change on a day-to-day basis. That's what I think. Yeah, we just looked at Bitcoin divided by the NASDAQ. We just looked at that. Hey guys, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this right now. Okay, so first of all, the crypto markets are very volatile. We've talked about that before. Back in March and April, a lot of people were calling for 300K. Right? A lot of people were calling for 300K. I said no, we're not going to 300K this cycle. It's too high, and we dropped back down. Then we bounced right back up, and now we're right back down. The asset class is brutal. I mean, it's absolutely brutal. And people tell me all the time they wish they could have bought the accumulation phase of a lifetime. Let me pull that video up. I'm gonna show you guys what I mean, and I'm gonna ask you if you actually have the discipline that those guys had. Okay, so let me show you what I'm talking about here. Okay. So I made a video in 2020, and it was called The Accumulation Phase of a Lifetime for Ethereum. Okay. Ether was at 200 bucks. Okay, it was at $200 when I made that video. $200, 233. We said accumulation phase of a lifetime, right? I don't make these videos lightly. So no, we're not in an accumulation phase of a lifetime right now. It's just not. You can't say it in a bear market. Once the bear market bottoms and maybe you put in a double bottom, you start going higher at the fair value. Then you could call it an accumulation phase of a lifetime. We're not in an accumulation phase of a lifetime during a bear market with a macroeconomic uncertainty looking as bad as it is. So, when you tell me that you want to be there, you wish you were there for the accumulation phase of a lifetime on ETH, I will remind you, the people that were watching my channel in July of 2020, it was not all the people that joined in 2021, right? It was the people that stuck around for the bear market. It was these people. It was the people that likely got wrecked from 1400 or wherever we went, right? It was likely the people that watched this drop. It says 1600 on this one, but it really topped out at 14. I didn't see it go to 16 anywhere. Ether dropped 94% in the bear market. 94%, which is actually, if you think about it, if we're being honest with ourselves, is not that dissimilar from how much Bitcoin dropped its first cycle. Okay? So Bitcoin during its first cycle dropped 94%. Ethereum's first cycle dropped 94%. I don't know if Ethereum's going to follow Bitcoin. Bitcoin's second cycle, it dropped 86% at worst. 86% from the top. It was a brutal drop. I don't know if it's going to happen again, but I'll tell you this. If there is going to be another accumulation phase of a lifetime, first of all, it would have to be in the fair value regression band, right? Back then, it was at 230. At 230 is where the fair value was, fit to non-bubble data. Where do you think it is today? It's probably a lot lower than you think it is. Again, I don't know when we're going to go there. Maybe Ether will hold the line at 1700, and then we'll have another rally next year or something, and we'll go to the fair value 2 years after that. I don't know. But I'll pull it up and I'll show you where it is. I mean, the same band exists, the same one that we had back over here. Okay, this back over here, it was a $200 ETH as well, the accumulation phase of a lifetime. Today, it would correspond to $600. That's how bad it would have to be for me to call it the accumulation phase of a lifetime. A $600 ETH. Doesn't mean we're going to go to $600, but if we don't go there, it's not an accumulation phase of a lifetime. It's just maybe an accumulation phase, like it has been in the past. A $600 ETH is ridiculous. You're talking about an 89% drop. I don't think Ether is ever going to go back to $600. This is my thought. I don't think it's ever going to go back that low. Even if we do go through a longer bear market, this is gonna, this band is still going to continue to increase. So by the end of the year, this band is going to be closer to $900, or maybe early next year. So it'll be getting closer to $1,000. So if we go through some type of scenario like this, okay, like if we go through some type of a scenario like this where Ether goes, say, to 1700, bounces up, and then maybe, if it then capitulates down here, that would be an accumulation phase of a lifetime. Okay, but $1,700 ETH isn't necessarily, I wouldn't call it an accumulation phase of a lifetime. I might call it potential accumulation, but to be fair, I would have also called, a 400. I mean, I was buying Ether over here at $400 and $500. Like I was that guy. I was that schmuck buying it. I also bought it over here, to be completely honest. Like I was riding this wave. But I just kind of thought this was business as usual and we were going to keep on going up. And we didn't. We dropped, from where I started buying it again, we dropped like another 80 something percent. So, I have to look at this and say an accumulation phase of a lifetime for Ether would probably have to be below the prior all-time high if it's going to happen this year. If it's going to happen next year, it could be above it. Okay. My thoughts on Ether, as I've said before, are that there's a good chance we're going to have to go back to 1700. Okay, so with Bitcoin testing its summer lows, I don't think Ethereum is going to get out of this without testing its own summer lows. Okay, so I think Ether at the very least is going to go back to 1700. I think that's a fair assessment. Whether it goes there this week, next week, 3 months from now, who knows? But I do think eventually Ethereum will make its way back to 1700. And then I think from that point, you have to figure out what does the macroeconomic environment look like? Is the Fed getting less hawkish? If they do, maybe we hold the line there, right? Like if inflation gets under control and the Fed, they decide they don't want to ruin the markets forever, then maybe we bounce from there. But if they remain hawkish, then we could easily capitulate below. So, you know, when you think about things like an accumulation phase of a lifetime, like I would never make a video like that unless I really thought we were about to go parabolic over the next, couple of years. Okay, I would not make that video. And I also thought we were fairly undervalued at the time. Okay, right now, I would say that, Ethereum is what, like 50 something percent down from the prior all-time high. I mean, it's not the worst time to buy Ether, right? It's certainly not the worst time. Buying it at $400 over here wasn't the worst time to buy it either, as long as you had some patience and you could wait it out. So I think really, the main strategy is always and has always been to dollar cost average. But I will warn you, the Ether Bitcoin valuation does not look good for the next few months. Okay, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you to DCA in a downtrend. But it is not looking good going into the summer months. So I'd be somewhat careful. Anyways, Bitcoin dominance still coming in below 42%. So something needs to give here. Man, I'm stubborn, huh? I really want to see this thing go up. I want to see this thing come back up to 55, 60%, and then maybe we can continue on our way. Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Sorry I had to go earlier. I had to go take care of some stuff, but I am back now. Let's watch the meltdown. I mean, here it is. We're in the middle of it. Might as well grab some popcorn and watch it. Let me post this actually.
Welcome, everybody, to the B Word. I'm Steve Lee, the lead of Square Crypto, and I'm here today to moderate a discussion about Bitcoin that will span from what makes it special to its relationship with energy, the community ethos, and the future of Bitcoin. I'm joined by three special guests. The first is Cathie Wood, founder, CEO, and CIO of ARK Invest. Next is Elon Musk, techno king of Tesla and chief engineer of SpaceX. And finally, Jack Dorsey, CEO of Square and CEO of Twitter. So we have a lot to talk about today. So let's get to the talk and get right to it. I'm going to start off by asking each of you a question, which is what's shaped and influenced your views on Bitcoin? And let's start with Cathie.
Okay, Steve, thank you. Well, the first thing was our focus on disruptive innovation. So starting in 2011, Brett Winton, our director of research, who I know will be on the program later, he started talking about this thing called Bitcoin at the time. And it was a curiosity as we were doing our brainstorms in research. But as we learned more about this open source ecosystem, that might fulfill the role of the payment system that the internet neglected to build into the system, not expecting commerce. We thought, this might be something. And then I became even more interested when I realized that my economics would come into play as well here. And Art Laffer, my mentor from USC, and a monetary scholar. In 2014, I asked him if he would collaborate on a paper on Bitcoin. And he was a bit of a naysayer at first, but agreed to read the paper. He read the paper, tore it up, and from an economics point of view, really wanted to understand this. And he said, I think you got something here. This is a rules-based monetary system. I've been waiting for this for my entire career. So the combination of disruptive innovation generally economics on top of that, and the huge misunderstanding out there as to what this is. That was intriguing and launched our research effort.
Thank you. Elon, what's influenced your views on Bitcoin?
Well, I've thought about money for quite a while, obviously, since the PayPal days. And then the companies that preceded that, X.com, which I created, and Confinity, which Peter Thiel, Max Levchin, Luke Howry, and others created. And we combined the companies and made PayPal. So I've been thinking about money for a long time. And really, I think it's best to think of money as an information system, primarily an information system for labor allocation. And for practical purposes, it exists in a series of heterogeneous databases, like very different databases in bank mainframes around the world. It moves quite slowly in reality. It may seem to move fast sometimes, and it does with PayPal, which is real time. But the vast majority of the systems out there are batch processing. So the actual reconciliation may take 1 to 5 business days, sometimes longer. And you have the ACH system, which is ancient and still in operation, which is allows transfers effectively like a check would be an ACH transfer, but it's not secure. And you've got the credit card systems, which are also not secure. It would be like handing your username and password to a stranger in a restaurant if you buy a meal. So there's definitely an opportunity for something that is better from an information theory standpoint. So and there you can think of it like data on a network. I think is the way to view it. What has the most throughput? What has the least error? What drops the fewest packets? Fraud, for example, being a source of error. And government interference in currencies being a source of error. But it's fundamentally an information system. So I think it makes sense to support something that improves the quality of information with which we conduct the economy. And Bitcoin is a candidate for that. It does, I think, some things well, and it's obviously it's evolving, and there are additional things like Lightning being done on top of Bitcoin. But Bitcoin per se is mostly solving for scarcity, or rather solving for essentially having no throat to choke, decentralized. So there's no one who can be coerced in any way to empty their Bitcoin account. Well, I guess they could technically, but on an individual basis, but the system as a whole cannot. And it has an open ledger, which is also quite good. But transaction volume is low. Transaction cost is high, and usability for the average person is not yet very good. But it has a lot of potential. And I should say that, like, I'm not, and I apologize for taking a long time, but there certainly is a lot to say. In general, I'm a supporter of Bitcoin and the idea of cryptocurrency in general. But as I've said publicly, we do need to watch out for crypto taking, especially Bitcoin, using proof of work to maybe use energy that's maybe a bit too much and not necessarily good for the environment. So, but on balance, I support Bitcoin, and I'm not an investor. The only publicly traded stock I own is Tesla, and the only significant thing I own outside of Tesla is my SpaceX stock that could help create both companies. So, but apart from that, I do own Bitcoin, and Tesla owns Bitcoin, SpaceX owns Bitcoin, and then I do personally own a bit of Ethereum and Dogecoin, of course. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we'll get into some of those issues in more depth as well. Jack, how about you? What shaped your views of Bitcoin?
The network and the community. It's deeply principled. It's weird as hell. It's always evolving, and it just reminded me of the internet when I was a kid. And I encountered alt cypherpunks when I was fairly young, and this was a topic of discussion for years. I didn't touch it until 2008 when we started Square. Elon and teams at X and PayPal inspired a lot of what we were trying to do, trying to bring in more to a physical world. But we encountered this crazy predatory system that was slow, that was obtuse. And I think, one of the things that we tried to do, which X and PayPal also tried to do, is build an abstraction layer around this complication and around this predatory nature that the financial industry can tend to be, and make it work for people. But when I saw Bitcoin in 2009, you see a chance to replace the whole foundation. And everything that Elon was talking about in terms of ACH and the credit card networks were built with very different agendas in a very different time frame. And it's crazy that they still exist, and they have scaled, but they just are not relevant to today, and they're certainly not relevant to the future, especially when you consider the entire world and countries like Nigeria or Ghana or India, and its interconnection with countries like the United States and Canada and all over Europe. So what really drove my thinking and drives my passion around it is, like, if the internet gets a chance to get a native currency, what will that be? And to me, it's Bitcoin, because of those principles, because of that creation story, because of its resilience, because of the number of tests it's been. But what inspires me the most is just the community driving it. It just reminds me of the early internet. It's the only reason that I have a career, because I learned so much from people like who are building Bitcoin today, and I continue to learn in that sense, and I'm so grateful for it.
So that's a good segue into the next question I'd like to ask you, Jack. Is you said before that Bitcoin changes everything. Can you speak more to that?
Well, I just think that a lot of what we experience in life, when you really get down to the foundation, a lot of our monetary policies, a lot of our monetary systems cause so much distraction and so much cost. And when you get to a system where you have the potential for people to truly own it, they can verify it themselves. You don't have to have trust going in. You don't have to trust it at all. You can verify it through source code or whatever your appetite is, and that any particular person can help drive the future of it. And at the same time, it's not controlled by any state. It's not controlled by any bank. It's not controlled by any corporation. And these three parties of people who participate in the network, people who mine, and also the developers, constantly debating the correct roadmap and the way forward, is a beautiful thing. And I don't know of many other consensus-based models that have existed at that scale for this long with this amount of success. And we're still fairly early. So when, I met a woman in Ethiopia 2 years ago, and she was trying to create the lift for Ethiopia. Elon, I think I reached out to you at that time as well, because she really wanted some Teslas. She still has to take paper fiat cash from her passengers and pay all of her drivers in the same way, because there's no monetary system that she can utilize. There's nothing digital. And Africa as a continent is hugely interconnected from a monetary standpoint, but also hugely taxed in that same way. So a lot of the potential that I see, the internet having a native currency helps her build her business in a much faster way. And also, if you consider something like Bitcoin existing before YouTube, before Twitter, before Facebook, a lot of the business models that we have today would not be the same. We would certainly not have the dependency we have upon the advertising business model if Bitcoin existed pre-Twitter. And I think the amount of business models that it enables, the amount of innovation it enables going forward, especially when you can consider the whole internet instead of going country by country by country by country, which you have to whenever you're doing with finance, it really just opens the aperture. And that that is what I want to see in my lifetime, is a currency that is standard and sound for the internet that everyone can use.
Great. A hallmark of Bitcoin is its fixed supply of 21 million coins. Elon referenced that earlier. It may be the first system that humans have created that humans cannot later change. Kathy, I'm curious, with your background in monetary history and macroeconomics, what are your thoughts on that type of system?
Oh, well, I'll recount the story about Art Laffer and our going through the paper, and he said, as I said, first rules-based monetary system, global, ever. This is a very big idea. Once we had convinced him of the ecosystem itself. Now, this is the role that it's playing, given that the rule is a quantity rule, that 21 million units, is really a store of value role. So there are three roles of money. Store of value, very important. The means of exchange, so for transactions, and the unit of account. Every good priced in terms of whatever the unit is. So store of value is its primary use right now. The others exist. Unit of account, reserve currency of the crypto asset ecosystem. That's being seeded a little bit towards stable coins right now. But the store of value is a very big role. And means of exchange with apps built on top of the Bitcoin blockchain, we think is going to become more of a reality. Right now, high value transactions take place over Bitcoin, and that is a very useful role. So we look at those, and I remember saying to Art, "How big could this be?" And he said, "Well, how big is the U.S. monetary base?" Well, today it's $8 trillion. $8 trillion. At the time we were talking, it was $4 trillion. So we've gone through another crisis since then. And so this store of value, this idea that purchasing power will go up over time if demand rises relative to supply ultimately fixed at 21 million units. That's a very good thing. Purchasing power going up globally around the world. And this idea that it's a hedge against confiscation of wealth. And that can take place in a myriad of ways. But inflation, and especially hyperinflation in emerging markets, is the primary way. Talk about destroying purchasing power. So that's a very big idea. And I'll also mention deflation. In some ways, it's a hedge against deflation. I know some people are confused that we at ARC think that we're in a deflationary environment here in the United States. If that is true, the odds of a hyperinflation in the rest of the world, especially in emerging markets, is also true. So, but this deflation, and we learned from 0809, there's counterparty risk associated with deflation. And I think Bitcoin would be a hedge against that eventuality as well. So it's a very big idea.
Right. I suspect among us, there's not a lot of debate about Bitcoin's potential as a store of value. But Jack, you referenced earlier it being or becoming the native currency of the internet. Can you speak more to that, and also how it relates to maybe how institutions think about it?
Yeah, I mean, like just simple example. If I happen to be in Ghana and my family is in Nigeria, currently I can take anywhere from and I need to send money back, anywhere from 10 to 30% off the top just to send that money back. Whereas if you just focus on the worldwide remittance problem, Bitcoin solves so many of those problems today instantly without having to go through any intermediaries or any slowness or complicated systems that a corporation or a state created. So I think having sound money that is separate from the state is the idea. Having it completely verifiable by everyone, including the state, including corporations, including individuals, including developers who want to build on top of it, is quite powerful, and that's what keeps it secure and strong. And I think that's, we need more of that, which is why this one of the reasons why this conversation is so important is as entities come into the space, it's not just buying an asset and holding on to an asset and treating it as an investment. There's something special that created this, and something precious and something very unique, which has to be protected, and we need to do whatever we can to help that thrive as well.
Elon, I'm curious your opinion on this. You mentioned earlier about Bitcoin's throughput, or the importance of throughput, maybe some concerns around Bitcoin. Can you speak? Do you think Bitcoin can become peer-to-peer cash?
Well, Bitcoin does have a fundamental scarcity limit at the base layer that's designed in. That doesn't mean you can't have some layer 2 system in theory like Lightning